Republicans could bring a tax reform plan to the Senate floor today after it cleared a key committee. At least 9 GOP senators have expressed concern about the bill. Republicans can only afford to lose 2 votes. Their concerns include repealing Obamacare's individual mandate, taxes on small businesses, and property tax deductions. 4 Republican senators say they're worried about adding to the country's $20 trillion debt. One of them is Oklahoma's Sen Lankford. He joins us now from Capitol Hill. Senator, good morning.
Hey, good morning to you.
Let me ask you about one of your chief concerns. Every estimate that I've seen shows that the Senate tax care plan would add to the debt about $500 billion in debt, even if you have modest economic growth. Will you vote for a plan that adds to the debt?
So what I've done is over the last couple of days is to be able to work with leadership and with the committees to be able to say, how can we create a backstop behind us? The estimates that we have, and again, there are lots of economic estimates out there, some saying above, some saying below the number that's needed. What I have done is ask for a backstop to be in place to say, in case the economic numbers are not reached, there will be a way to be able to recover some of those revenues. So yes, I am on board with this bill because I want to see the good economic growth that's coming with it, but I also want to make sure that we're protecting future taxpayers as well in debt and deficit.
I hear what you're saying, that backstop, or some people are calling it a trigger, that in other words, if that economic growth doesn't come, it would trigger higher taxes. But the U.S. Chamber of Commerce is asking, how would a trigger operate once a recession hits?
Correct. So what we're writing into the language is a protection from recession. There's really 2 aspects of it. Let me say this. We're writing in a protection on recession. So if there is a recession, the trigger turns off. But the second part of that is if we do this large tax cut and we broaden the base of what's happening economically, we better not have a recession at that point. This should actually charge up the economy. So I think some of the concerns about a pending recession right after you're doing tax cuts are unfounded. But we are building language in to make sure that we're protecting it either way, because obviously I don't want to have that either. You don't want to have a situation where you're in a recession and taxes go up. And we're not talking about a large tax increase. We're talking about small things around the edges to be able to guard against future loss to increases in deficits. So that both of those can be done.
Well, so, Senator, let me ask you a question about the middle class folks. People making under $75,000 a year would see a tax hike in 2027 if these tax cuts aren't renewed. Meanwhile, the corporate tax cut is permanent. So why not make the tax cuts for middle class individuals permanent as well?
Because of Washington scoring, that's why. And that's been the frustration all along that we have with the Senate is the scoring requirements for any of the bills that we do. The way you have to set it up, it has to meet certain standards in certain time periods. We can make all the business aspects permanent, which is very important to us. You've got to have some sort of consistency for business to be able to plan for the future for capital investment. The individual rates are not permanent, but that is exactly like what was done in 2001, and then they were renewed in 2011 and made permanent. I would assume we would have something very similar to that with this one, that 10 years out we would also renew those and be able to keep going on it. You need to be able to protect rates. You need to be able to protect the economic growth. The way you do that is from the business side and the advanced planning.
Senator, can you help us understand, every time we talk to politicians about the tax plan, we get a lot of numbers. I feel like my head's going to pop out because you hear all of these conflicting and contradicting information. Can you just very simply explain why this is good for the middle class and that it doesn't benefit the wealthy in America? Just in 1 or 2 sentences would be great.
Well, I tell the people back home the most confusing thing about Washington is trying to get the accurate number. The best thing that we can do in this situation is allow businesses to be able to have more of their own money, to hire more people, to buy more equipment, to invest in new ways, and to be able to allow people in the middle class especially to have more money for savings and for spending. That increases economic activity around the country, more economic activity, more people have a job, more people are paid more at their jobs. There's more income that happens back and forth in buying and selling, so more products are made. That makes the economy healthier. The economy's been stuck for 10 years at 2% growth. Historically, America's grown at 3%. We've got to get us back up to a normal, healthy economy again. This is a way to bump the economy to be able to get it growing and healthy again.
Senator, I want to ask you about one of the other big headlines today, and that is North Korea. And I know you are on the Senate Intelligence Committee. What we saw yesterday was that the North Koreans have made some huge technological advances, including the fact that this missile could reach Washington, D.C. Also that they can fuel this thing very quickly before perhaps we could launch a preemptive strike. How much does that concern you?
It should concern everyone in the United States and the entire world community. The UN Security Council is meeting today to talk about it. China released out a statement that was dead set against it. Russia released out a statement saying this is a provocative act from North Korea. The entire world is reaching into North Korea and saying, stop, slow down. You are intentionally trying to provoke a conflict in the days ahead by doing these.
If that warhead that missile that was launched yesterday had a warhead on it, are you convinced that our intelligence would have been good enough to take it out preemptively?
Well, the first thing wouldn't necessarily be intelligence. The first thing would be quick response. We have 4 different THAAD missile high-altitude systems in South Korea to be able to shoot down a high-altitude missiles. We have missile interception systems in multiple other locations around the Pacific Rim as well to be able to attack it once it goes up. That missile was up in the air for 53 minutes. So rapid response, you have a couple of minutes to be able to think through, plan, strategize what you're going to do, and to be able to launch countermeasures on it. So a 53-minute missile launch is very significant. It's a lot of distance, but you do have time to respond.
Senator Lankford, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.